For millennia, people have dreamed of immortality. From ancient shamans to the great pharaohs of Egypt, to more recent alchemists and biohackers, people have been trying to cheat death for a while. But so far, no one has succeeded. Despite these shortcomings, it seems we are living in quite interesting times, where we could be near some extraordinary scientific advances that could catapult human lifespan to unheard of new levels. Join us in this journey to explore the latest breakthroughs in the science of longevity and discover what we can do today to increase our chances of living long enough to take advantage of the exciting longevity technologies of the near future. I don't know about you, but most of us don't like the idea of getting old. Just when things start becoming interesting in life and we gain wisdom, maturity, and stability, our bodies and minds begin to decline and slow down. Some people even dare to call aging a disease.
People ask, is aging the biggest risk factor of disease? In my opinion, it doesn't matter my opinion. What matters is what science is proving. Pointed out that you have a 5 times greater chance of dying of cancer if you smoke. You have a 500 times greater chance as you age. Aging is the breakdown. If we eliminated cancer, our life expectancy as a country, or as individuals, would go up about 3.5 to 5 years, depending on which statistic you believe. But aging plays a much larger role in that process. Unfortunately, people at younger ages are aging faster today because they don't take care of their bodies. So there's zero question that aging has a giant impact on the breakdown disease.
90% of the people in developed countries die because of aging. Not because of terrorism, not because of climate change. The enemy of humanity today is aging.
Aging is basically a loss of function. So your kidneys, when you're young, they perform fully and they're able to clear all the toxins out of your body, but after decades of functioning, they start to lose function. The same with the brain, the same with the liver, the same with the immune system, right? Older people are more susceptible to diseases and so on. And that's because there's an accumulation of cells within a tissue that are no longer functioning as originally intended.
People over the age of 65 usually have 2 or more diagnoses of an aging disease because they go hand in hand. They are merely the symptom of biological aging. If you look at the definition of a pathology, aging fits a pathology perfectly.
If people say aging is not a disease, well, if it's not a disease, why are there some animals that don't have any detectable aging process, like lobsters and tortoises and clams? They have no detectable aging at all.
It's about a 3-fold increased risk if you have high cholesterol for getting cardiovascular disease. How many people do you know in your 20s that have cardiovascular disease? Almost none. And yet it's extremely common by the time you get to your 70s. It's like a 100-fold risk. It's obvious. We've known this for a long time. If you slow aging, you delay all of these chronic diseases. So it's clearly a risk factor, the biggest risk factor and the most common risk factor. And that means we should be spending the most effort trying to do something about it.
I'm definitely not in favor of aging. I think that aging is the world's #1 problem because it causes so much deprivation, so much suffering. Yes, it kills people, but it tends to kill people after a long period of decline and decrepitude and dependence and general misery. That's a problem.
Humans, we want to stay active, young, creative, and for that we need longevity extension. We need a healthy condition, both of the body and the mind. So I think it is an asset, and there is nothing wrong with wanting to be young.
It will be a very important step when regulators like FDA will recognize aging as a disease. So this will allow public funding or health insurance to finance these longevity interventions.
What's exciting is when you look at aging as a disease, is then you know you can cure it. And if you can cure this disease, then you basically can live forever.
Once we've gotten rid of the degenerative process of aging, then most diseases will be eliminated.
So when people think about aging and their own lifespan, they frequently turn to their parents and their grandparents to sort of determine how long they're going to live. But it turns out, at least science has recently told us, that only 7% of your lifespan can be based upon your genetics. So conversely, 93% of your health span is on you. So it's going to be what you do with your life. It's going to be what you eat, if you exercise, what things you surround yourself by.
we did a bad deal with the devil one day. We came to the devil and says, why is life expectancy for thousands of years 25 to 35 years? That's the life expectancy. And the devil said, oh, okay, you know what? I'll help you. So he did. He gave us the sewer and the clean water and antibiotics and vaccinations and surgery. And what happened? We went through this phase, and now we have those diseases, Alzheimer's and heart disease and cancers and diabetes. And we need to make another deal now. And the deal has to be that we target aging. Okay, and by targeting aging, we're going to prevent those diseases and make our health span better again.
A common, inexpensive diabetes drug has been making headlines in the last few years as a potential longevity drug. But what is it? And what's all the fuss about?
So Metformin was a drug, or some of its cousins were drugs that were used 80 years ago. And they're actually used to prevent flu and malaria and inflammation. And it's during this time that people noted that those with diabetes, it lowered their glucose level. And so it became a diabetic drug. And we have preliminary data to show you from other studies that people on metformin have less diabetes, they have less heart disease, they have less cancer, they live longer even than people without diabetes, less Alzheimer's. And because of its safety record and because it's generic, it's the cheapest drug on the market, we thought that's a great entry. You know, healthcare providers are not going to object that their subject will be on metformin, such a cheap drug that will have so much health benefits. And when we prove the concept, the pharmaceuticals will jump in and the world will rapidly become a better place.
I'm much more conservative here. So I would love to see the outcome of TAME trial, this 5,000 people trial where metformin is going to be used to measure age reversal effect. So I do believe that in 5 years from now, metformin can be first or one of the first longevity drugs.
So metformin is going to be a start. It will give us 2-3 years, which is enough time to then maybe add another drug or being more dramatic in how we attack aging. 2-3 years, it's a concept that I want to put in perspective. If we cured heart disease in the United States now, we'll get 2-3 years of life extension. So 2-3 years of health span is a lot, and it's translated to trillions and trillions of dollars of saving. And I'm saying 2-3 years on average, right? Some people, maybe metformin won't be effective, and some people may live 10 years healthier more.
Well, everyone can do whatever they'd like, right? And there's different evidence for different molecules. Certainly, there's very good evidence for metformin in animal models that it slows down aging, and there's some initial evidence in humans, although some humans have side effects, and so you don't really know.
We know everything we need to know on metformin because there are billions of years of use of metformin across the world. There's not going to be any surprise. When you start metformin, a lot of people have side effects in the first week of use, and it's usually gastrointestinal side effects. Other than that, most people have no idea that they are taking any drug like that. So I would claim that it has the best record of any drug for safety.
It does amazing things for you in terms of longevity. Changes your gut microbiota, activates your AMP kinase, does just a myriad of amazing things. At the same time, it's a partial mTOR inhibitor, that's a problem. It also uncouples your mitochondria to a certain degree, so you have less energy efficiency, which means it helps you lose weight. On the other hand, if you're an athlete, you're not going to have as much energy. So there's all of these sort of caveats and innuendos of these things that we sort of have to be aware of as we start sort of playing with the aspects of longevity.
So metformin's actually probably the worst of the, I'm sure it's not the worst, it's the worst of the popular approaches to stress response upregulation. I don't understand why it's popular. This thing just has such mixed results in animal studies. Yet you have this human study in diabetic patients where the diabetic patients gained a small but very consistent gain in life expectancy, just a few years. It's just not interesting. If you told them to go exercise, it would have been way better.
We know that for type 2 diabetics, metformin is fantastic for them. It reduces their heart disease risk and kidney disease progression. But unfortunately for non-diabetics, when they take metformin, there was a 2019 study that showed that those who took metformin, they actually impaired their response to exercise. So those that were taking metformin, they were only receiving about 50% of the benefit of the exercise regime that they were doing. So we need to make sure that with any strategy that we're doing, it's first of all safe and then effective.
Nir Barzilai is running this TAME trial that'll help to give us a better answer, and I think there's no reason to kind of push ahead of the science and start taking these things before we kind of have proof on whether they have any impact on aging.
Taking a drug used by organ transplant patients and for cancer treatment as an anti-aging therapy may sound a little outrageous. But increased interest in this approach is being driven by the research into rapamycin.
So rapamycin is a small molecule. It's actually got a really interesting backstory to it. So it was first found from bacterial cultures on Easter Island, which is, of course, also called Rapa Nui. That's where the drug gets its name from. And what we've learned over the past few decades is that this drug, in addition to having interesting properties in terms of affecting the immune system, also seems to slow the biological aging process in every animal where it's been studied. What we know at this point is that if you treat laboratory animals with rapamycin, you see an increase in lifespan and a corresponding increase in what we call health span, which is the period of life that's spent in good health, free from the chronic diseases of aging. So really the big question at this point is whether or not the same effects will be seen in dogs or in people outside of the laboratory.
Over and over again, when rapamycin is tested, we can see a roughly 15 to 20% lifespan extension in mice. So out of all of the molecules that we're currently investigating to see what molecules will actually extend lifespan, I'm most excited about rapamycin. And I think it's high time that we translate some of that mice data into human clinical trials.
If you ask a clinician, they're often worried about rapamycin, and the reason is that it's used for immune suppression. So after organ transplant, for instance, people are prescribed rapamycin, but they're not prescribed rapamycin alone. They're given rapamycin plus cyclosporin, which is a very strong immune suppressant. And together, they further suppress the immune system. And so people are worried about infections and things like that if they take rapamycin. But the truth is, in a healthy population, at a low dose of rapamycin, it doesn't suppress the immune system. It's immunomodulatory. In fact, it protects against some respiratory infections.
The nice and good thing about rapamycin, if you look at the studies, it's dose dependent, which means the more you give or the more you take, the better it works. The problem is with rapamycin, once you get to a high dose, you get side effects, and we're trying to eliminate these. So in order to get those very beneficial effects in mice that you see, we believe it's important to have a drug that you can dose higher without getting those side effects.
Rapamycin seems to be very promising. We're actually using these in some clinical trials, and the effects are really good.
So the Dog Aging Project is a large-scale study of the biology of aging in companion dogs or pet dogs. It is a clinical trial to try to determine whether or not rapamycin can have a positive impact on the aging process in pet dogs. So the one thing I can tell you is that in both clinical trials, we saw no evidence for significant side effects. In the first clinical trial, we also saw evidence for a restoration of age-related heart function. So just like in people, in pet dogs, as the dogs get older, there's a gradual decline in heart function, and we saw evidence that rapamycin could partially reverse that. That's also been seen in laboratory mice. And then in both studies, we saw some evidence that the dogs were more active. And it's important to appreciate that these were double-blind trials, meaning that the owners and the veterinarians, neither group knew which dogs were getting rapamycin or which were getting placebo. Well, I cannot make any recommendations about what you do, but I will say I know a number of people who have consulted with their private practice veterinarian and have convinced their veterinarian to prescribe rapamycin for their dog.
A lot of people I know are taking rapamycin off label. I don't encourage that. I think more research is probably a good idea. but people do it.
Yeah, there are certain medications we take at Blueprint which are really on the cutting edge of anti-aging science. Metformin and rapamycin are two. There's a lot of disagreements in the scientific field about where these drugs are and what their proven efficacy is. We believe there's sufficient data to incorporate it as experimental. So we are on both. We track the data very closely. We're trying to see what my response curve. If you're taking Rapa blindly, it's really a difficult thing to do. You really want to see how you're metabolizing it specifically and then hone in on that dose.
Rapamycin is something that I think a lot of people are excited about, and I'm fairly optimistic about rapamycin, but I'm waiting for the clinical trials. Either there's clinical trials going on in dogs and companion animals, and also starting clinical trials in humans to see what this has an effect.
Rapamycin is very well known for slowing down aging, but all of those claims are made on a population level, and you just don't know whether that effect is going to be realized and if you're going to pick up any kind of side effects. I think people should be very careful what they do, because if you take something for 10 years and you think it's slowing down your aging and then you find out it actually accelerated it, or you picked up cancer or something like that, that's obviously a bad choice. So it's a gamble, and everyone has the right to gamble with their body whatever they like.
In terms of a prediction of what's possible for human life expectancy, you know, as I said, I think it's at least plausible that something like rapamycin or one of the other interventions that we're studying today could have an impact of a decade, maybe 2 decades, on healthy life expectancy for most people.